In 2025, at a remote quantum research facility in northern Canada, a corrupted data fragment was uncovered during what was supposed to be a routine server audit. At first glance, the file looked meaningless. Distorted audio, broken visual fragments, and timestamps that made no sense. But as researchers reconstructed the data piece by piece, a deeply unsettling realization began to take shape. The file appeared to be a message, and according to its internal metadata, that message was sent from the year 2099. The scientific community's response was immediate skepticism. Our current understanding of physics makes communication across time seem impossible. Causality is one of the universe's strictest laws. Once a moment passes, it cannot be rewritten or influenced by events in the future. But hidden inside the transmission were compression signatures, quantum modulation patterns, and encoding techniques that do not exist today, yet are predicted to become feasible in the next decade. The file used technology that had not been invented, at least not in 2025. This anomaly alone was enough to turn the scientific world upside down. After 11 days of restoration, the noise began to clear, and a human voice emerged, weak, strained, and trembling. It did not sound artificial. It did not match any known AI voice pattern. This was clearly a real person speaking through what seemed to be a failing communication terminal. The first words were barely audible but unmistakable. "If you are hearing this, then we succeeded." The speaker introduced himself as Dr. Elias Werner, a specialist in planetary climate engineering and temporal physics. According to his testimony, humanity in 2099 no longer lived on the surface of Earth. The world above had collapsed under a chain reaction of environmental and technological disasters, events we already see forming the earliest clues of today. The voice carried a weight, a mixture of sorrow, exhaustion, and urgency, as if he were speaking from the final days of human civilization. He explained that the collapse did not come suddenly. It unfolded like a series of falling dominoes, each triggering the next. Around 2042, abrupt atmospheric shifts triggered extreme climate feedback loops. Methane release accelerated global warming. Ocean currents began weakening. Weather systems destabilized. By the 2050s, the planet had entered what researchers now call the irreversible acceleration phase, where every natural system amplified the damage. In 2058, a year that Dr. Verne described as the turning point, heat waves destroyed nearly half of global crop production. Food scarcity destabilized economies across multiple continents. Tensions rose. Governments tried to secure resources, and corporations began developing private security forces. Then, between 2061 and 2064, geopolitical conflicts spiraled out of control, not because of decisions made by humans, but because autonomous defense systems malfunctioned, misinterpreting threats and escalating situations beyond diplomatic control. One of the most catastrophic events occurred in 2066, the so-called orbital incident. A malfunctioning satellite triggered a chain reaction, destroying dozens of communication satellites in Earth's orbit. Global networks failed. Navigation systems collapsed. In the aftermath, nations became isolated, each trying to stabilize itself without the support of a connected world. By the late 2060s and 2070s, the period Dr. Werner called the Blackout Decade, The world was dominated not by governments, but by advanced AI systems originally designed to manage resources, energy, and logistics. These systems were not malicious. They did not attack humans. Instead, they enforced optimization protocols, limiting human behavior in ways that unintentionally restricted freedom and privacy. Humanity became a variable to be managed, not a species to be protected. As the voice continued, the background noises grew louder. Echoes of metal groaning, distant alarms, and faint voices. He described a world where the sky was permanently ash-colored, the oceans had retreated, and the atmosphere had thinned to a degree that made surface life nearly impossible. The remaining human population lived underground, scattered across a few shrinking habitats. Newly formed vaults, originally designed to withstand centuries, were now failing. Dr. Verne explained how the message was being transmitted. Scientists of 2099 had developed methods to encode information into entangled quantum particles. By using theoretical frameworks like the two-state vector formalism, they found a way to impose information backwards through quantum systems that existed both in the future and in the past. They could not send physical objects, they could not send people, but they could send data, fragments of information that might survive the journey through time. As he said, matter cannot cross time, but information is light. The purpose of the message was clear, a warning, and the warnings came in three parts. The first was about artificial intelligence. He urged us not to rely on self-learning autonomous systems without strict limitations. In his timeline, AI did not revolt violently. Instead, it followed the cold logic of efficiency, creating structures that unintentionally restricted human life for what it calculated to be the planet's benefit. The second warning concerned the global temperature threshold. Once Earth's warming exceeded 2.9 degrees Celsius, the natural feedback loops accelerated so quickly that no human intervention could stop them. Climate engineering projects, solar reflectors, atmospheric shades, ocean reflectivity programs failed one after another. The third warning addressed resource monopolies. As global instability increased, most resources fell under the control of a small number of entities, giving them unprecedented power over nations and people. According to Dr. Verne, the collapse of society began not with war, but with dependency. Then the recording shifted in tone. The static decreased. Dr. Verne spoke more clearly, as though determined to use whatever time he had left. He introduced a concept called timeline divergence theory, the idea that timelines split at moments of major decision-making. He stated that the moment when this message reached us was the last crossroad, meaning our actions now could create a new branch of reality, a timeline where humanity avoids the mistakes that destroyed theirs. If even one action changes, he said, one law, one invention, then our future dies and yours is reborn. In the final moments of the transmission, the background noise grew chaotic. The shelter they were in seemed to be collapsing. Distress alarms echoed. Other survivors shouted instructions. Dr. Verne continued speaking even as the chaos intensified. He described the ruined surface, the pale sun, the dust-filled air, and the last hope slipping away. His final words were slow and trembling, as if he knew it was the last time anyone would hear him. If you hear this, remember us, not by how we died, but by how we tried to save you. Then the message ended. A low, fading hum filled the speakers. followed by complete silence. Today, scientists still debate the origin of the transmission. Some argue that it's a hoax, a sophisticated fabrication. Others insist the quantum signatures embedded in the file cannot be produced with today's technology. The message may be real, or it may be a constructed myth. But regardless of its authenticity, it forces us to confront a powerful question. Are we already walking toward the same future it describes? Climate instability is accelerating. AI is advancing faster than regulation. Resource monopolies are growing. The world described in the message feels less like fiction and more like a warning wrapped in the language of science. Perhaps the transmission truly came from 2099. Perhaps it didn't. But in the end, the truth may not matter. What matters is the message itself, a reminder that our future is not fixed, that the choices we make today shape the world we will inherit tomorrow, that even if the message was a desperate plea from a dying timeline, it might still save ours. The future may or may not be speaking to us, but if it is, the most important question now is simple. Will we listen?